Right, and we should be live. Give me one moment. I just need to. There we go. Sorry, I forgot to set the game capture properly, but that should be it all fixed. Hello, and welcome to the usual Triclaw Sunday stream. Do say hello in chat if you're here. And a bit of a different stream today. I'm taking a break from continuing my crater park, and I thought we would work together on some random enclosure designs, sort of park area and plaza designs, entrance designs, back scene areas, see what sort of things we can come up with in order to provide you folks some inspiration for your own park. So you can see I've already made us some areas which we're going to utilize for various parts of the park. I'm just going to have a slurp or drink. I have seen that burger. My issue with it is that the quality is relatively poor, and some of the pieces with some of the objects that person has utilized, it causes frame rate loss because they aren't very well optimized. So that's why I'm not going to be using it. So let's get started. The first thing we need to be doing is making sort of our dinosaur production areas so that we can make some enclosures. So we're going to begin with a back scene area to begin with. And back scene area design, I think, is quite important. I don't think enough people make like back scene locations for their parks, but it can sort of add some extra detail to your just your parks, and you can build around it. The first thing I would always suggest that you do when you have a back scene area is always try to separate it off from the rest of your park. Hello, Rick Rold, Greg, Natalie, Berger, Jacob is also here. I don't have any modded dinosaurs currently installed, Natalie. No, I don't. I'll explain why in a minute. And what Jurassic World Evolution mod would you like to try sometime? Oh, I do try mods, Greg. I'm just not using too many at the moment. But again, I will explain why in a sec. Let's start getting on with the back scene area. So, tip number one when doing a back scene, try to separate it off from the rest of your park. And that's what I was going for, Nerd Guy, when I did it. So back scene areas, separate them off from the rest of your park. You can do it quite easily with quite thick foliage, as I've done here. What you could also do is you could add a ridge line of raised terrain underneath this forestry to create an even bigger difference. Something else you can do, and what I'm going to do for this particular park, is we're going to separate it off using fencing. So I'm just going to create a path out from this circle. And our the first back scene area design, we're going to have sort of start about there. So while I'm putting in the basic elements for this, one of the reasons I am not using too many mods at the moment is because I was getting a bit disappointed with the growing problem I was having with some of my previous park building attempts, where they were stopping working due to a problem with some optimization settings they brought in for the Malta DLC. Now, I've been speaking to Kaya Denick, and apparently that issue has been sort of fixed, but for the time being, I just kind of want to, I guess, build a little bit more vanilla. So, this is going to be the start of our back scene area. We've separated it off even more with the standard concrete fencing. Something I quite like to do also, just for a bit of decorative flair, is to add, where are they? Is to add these towers, because you can make them as guard towers, sort of. So let's just put one sort of there, and one on the other side. There we go. What I'm going to do is pull this fencing up. Not quite that. 1, 2. We'll do the same over here. And 2. There you go. That makes it look a bit more official there. Wow, chat is busy today. I'm making an island on the map you're using. Any tips, says Rickrolled. So Rickrolled, first tip would be create some landscaping before you start doing anything with the park. So, you know, put a river through it, or build some mountains or some valleys. Do some landscaping before you start building the park, because the landscaping that you put in will automatically help you design and build the various areas of the park. So that would be my tip for you there. I have seen the Ultimasaurus mod. I was very tempted to get that, I do admit. But like I say, I've been wanting to do more vanilla-y gameplay at the moment. So, back scene areas, the basic buildings you need is the hatchery and a lagoon hatchery. And I like to sort of combine them. That's mostly a feature thanks to mods, but you can do something similar if you're not using mods. Let's use this facility hatchery. I prefer the facility style hatchery for back scene areas because it's actually smaller than some of the others. So I just think it fits a little nicer into the park. There we go. I have an idea for a South American animal pack which includes Mapusaurus, Argentinosaurus, Scorpio Venator, and Sacrinosaurus along with Brazil. Fletcher, will this stream be like we help you with your enclosure ideas or something like that? Yes, exactly. So that's the point. After I've done this back scene area, we'll pick an enclosure size, and I'll get you guys to give me an idea for an enclosure you'd like to see me make, and I will make it for you. Right, so lagoon hatchery. And then we just combine the two. Like thus. Now, obviously, if you're not using mods, you cannot do that. But you should be able to get it fairly close together. There we go. Now, I like to put quite a lot of path around my buildings, because there's lots of areas where you've kind of got doors and stuff. And so it makes sense to me that you would have path running basically wherever there is a door. And that's mostly just for realism's sake. straighten that out a bit. There you go. So there's our sort of little dinosaur production area. Obviously, for an effective back scene, you also want to think about other buildings that your park would need to use. So you're talking about things like command centers, for example. I've always quite liked the Jurassic World one, just because you have these the windows in the top, and you can also sort of combine it with other structures if you're using Kaidenix mod. I think what we'll do is we'll put this one against this fence sort of here. Actually, I find that quite interesting. It almost works. It's just a shame that it's asymmetrical on this side. I'm going to keep that, and we'll hide the awkward area. Also, recently I've been playing Zoo Tycoon 2 a lot. Zoo Tycoon 2 is a classic. And I would argue did a lot of things better than even this game does. Okay, nice. There's our command center. Personally, I like having a hatchery attached to an enclosure because I like the idea of guests watching the dinosaurs being released. I understand why, and also, you know, it's one of the few animations that we actually would get to see. Is that release animation. But for me, once you're in Sandbox, and obviously once you're playing Sandbox, you tend not to be too concerned with that sort of aspect. You just want to build the park, and messing around with the hatchery, it's just not something that I find particularly interesting when sandboxing. So I'm going to sort of phase those buildings together to make it look like they're part of one. And actually that works also quite well, having those sticking through there. I'm trying to keep an eye on chat, don't worry. I'm just going to have a quick slurp of drink, and I will have... I enjoy a swampy habitat with the dinosaur named Shrek. I'm doing okay, Super Jacoby. How are you doing today? It's been a year since release and I'm still upset guests can't walk through the main door of the visitor center. Yeah, it is strange, just like there is so much that still needs to be done with this title for it to be really good. Right, in addition to the staff areas, working areas, we do need some just sort of general staff center area. So we're going to put this one there, and then we're going to get another one. See, where can we stitch them together where it makes sense? Yeah, kind of makes sense. And that gives us space for healing. There we go. So there's our sort of nice staff areas, staff accommodation. And then I suppose the last thing we would need for vaccine area is probably like a ranger building. Now the ranger buildings are all pretty big. Shot myself in the foot a little bit here. Something like that. Maybe. You know, we'll actually make this a ranger center, like absent vaccine area, because obviously this is just for decorative effect, really. So, I mean, while having a ranger center would definitely be good, it's not a necessity. I'm going to put in some foliage into this pot here. Just for a little nicety. And these two small rectangles, they're perfect for giving your staff some nice seating areas. So, obviously, their staff, they don't have to be too complex or decorative. Just going to throw in a couple of okay. Do something similar over here. One and two. And then grab trees. Do the same over here. And then obviously some seating. Where is the seating? And there we go. A very simple vaccine area. Gives you everything you need. You can mold it into the rest of your parks, put an enclosure on this side that the windows and stuff can look into. Put this somewhere, hide it. It just adds something extra to your game and to your park. And obviously now that we have hatcheries, we can now build enclosures. So let's start with a relatively small enclosure. So let's pick this small square and give me your ideas in chat. What shall we do with this small square enclosure? And while you're coming up with ideas, I'm just going to make sure everything is going okay. Yes, good. Maybe Moros as Archaeopteryx in a biodome. Mm. I wouldn't use an aviary for a square-shaped enclosure. I probably would say if you're going to make an aviary building, put it in a circular enclosure. See you later, Super Jacoby. So let's have an actual proper dinosaur suggestion, biome suggestion, or a theme. Hello, Evolution Spinosaurus. Friggin' Suchomimus. Do a Suchomimus enclosure. Well, actually, no, this might be a bit small for a Suchomimus. Something this size is probably better for a Suchomimus. Swamp enclosure says as dark-eared. Okay, swamp enclosure. We can do a swamp enclosure. What dinosaur should we put in this swamp enclosure? Baryonyx. Again, if you're going to put piscivores in an enclosure, I would probably go with a slightly bigger one. So given this is a slightly smaller enclosure, let's have a slightly smaller Deinonychus as Barga. That's interesting. Okay. We'll do Deinonychus. Right, since we're doing a raptor, we want to do double-layered fencing. So the first layer is going to be probably medium electrified. Go up to there and stop about there. That, stop out there. Another quick tip I would give you if you are building any parks, always make sure your first few buildings are on a snap angle. So your entrance building should be always on a snap angle, so that you can do stuff like this and get it absolutely perfect. And the second layer of fencing around the outside would be, let's make it small DFW. No, not small DFW. Let's go with a classic fence. There we go. So double layer fencing for all your carnivores. It's something I do as standard. It's good from a gameplay perspective because it can really help when you have sort of escapes and stuff. But from a sandbox perspective, it just makes your carnivore enclosures look a little bit more chunky and realistic. And it makes them stand out a little bit more. And you can do interesting things with the layering of fences. You can put other structures or trees or whatever between those layers, so you can have more of an interesting enclosure. I'm making a secret dinosaur facility in the UK. What do you think? I think the UK doesn't deal with secrets very well. So, a swampy exhibit. I would just fill the whole thing with... Oh, of course. This is something I really don't like about the Isla Nublar 2015 map, is it's not actually correct on its elevation. You have to go and flatten everything again. And it can be ever so slightly annoying. But actually, with the double layer fencing, what we can do is we can bring the water up to the first layer of fence. Yeah, that should look okay. That's okay. It's not perfect, but it'll do. And then once you fill in the whole thing, obviously you need to remove some, but not too much. So it's just a couple of islands, like that. There we go. Yeah, that should about do. Now, swamp colors for ground textures. With Isla Nublar, I probably would just go with mud. Something like Canada, I probably would go with the chunky sand. As the base layer. So there's our mud, is our base layer. Over the top of that, we are going to put some light sand dusting. Just to soften up the muddy colours a bit. Doing it all over, and this is what I would suggest you do if you want to improve your landscape. Do one texture at a time, do it all over, and just apply them in layers. So we'll add the secondary grass. Around the edges and on these islands. That. Same there. Want to add a little depth to the water, so using rock or sand texture through like the widest points of your water, just to give it some artificial depth. Really works. There we go. Next, I would then suggest you do rocks. Let's go with these mossy coloured rocks. I think that works quite well. We're going to have like some small ones here. Make it look like a bit of a crossing. Put two. Let's change the angle for this. What's the angle again? Oh, space. There you go. So put a couple standing up with a few little chunks in the river to make it look like there was an arch that's collapsed. And then we'll put a couple more rocks in a few other places. Works. I just found out that emojis offered its skin tone variations. What? Well, yeah, I'm confused by what you mean by that, Barger, as well. Right, now we have the placeable trees. I always place down the placeable trees first, before I then add anything else. For a swampy enclosure, I would go with what I call the bushy trees. That is the main tropical one. And then the big bushy Mediterranean trees, because they're just, I think, the thickest and best for this sort of environment. And I always put trees around rocks. So wherever you have a rock, put a tree. Like that. Don't put trees in every corner, because then it looks quite fake and artificial. And when you're placing vegetation, think about, where your viewing gallery is and what they're going to be seeing. So our viewing gallery here is staring right down that archway. It's shaded, but we don't want to have too many trees sort of in front here or on this island here, because then otherwise you're not going to see anything. So, next up, add some smaller varieties of tree in with the bigger ones. So, gonna mix and match some palms around our trees. Obviously, if you're not using mods, this will be slightly more not necessarily difficult, but you'll have to obviously play around with it to get the best looking sort of areas. Don't forget that there are plenty of smaller varieties of tree and shrub that you can make use of. Let's put in some of those small bushes. And for further sort of aesthetic look, I always like to put in a couple of different coloured trees from the European varieties that we've got, just to help break up that really awful tendency to just have green everywhere. Just helps break it up a little bit. And we definitely need walking pterosaurs, I do agree. Once you've got your main trees in place, then you can just add basic vegetation. I would always suggest that you keep your intensities to about midway. because then that helps with guiding where you're going to put stuff. For a swampy exhibit, I would suggest the leafy climbers, because you've got a good mix of bushes, flowers, and also those logs that occasionally spawn. So, leafy climbers all over here. Good. Good. Areas where water would go slower, so around rocks and stuff, use the fibrous ground cover, and you can put in some water plants around it. Fibrous ground cover, they're all actually sort of water plants, so it does make sense for them to be in the water. A few patches around there. Good. And I just want to see if I can get some flowers or something to spawn. Some ferns. Let's remove that one from the center. Just put it straight back. Let's remove the one from the center and put some of those instead. There we go. That's better. There. One swampy exhibit. And we need some deinonychus for this, don't we? So let's go get some deinonychus. I'm just going to randomize every single skin. And we'll see what we get. And who knows, we might find some new skins that we quite like. Let's have a look. Salar del Huasque. We'll get rid of that one. Death Valley. We'll put that one in. Right. For a dinosaur the size of Deinonychus, I think an enclosure this size, four dinosaurs would be sufficient. And what we're going to do is we'll put in our feeders, but we want to try and hide them as much as we can from the viewing gallery, because it looks a bit unrealistic just to see a goat rise up from under the ground like it's a zombie. Path of Titan flashbacks. What dinosaurs do you want that aren't in the game? Protoceratops, Saltosaurus, Hypsilophodon. Trying to think, is there any others? Oh, Plateosaurus. There's quite a few that I would want added. In fact, next week there will be a video coming out about things I think should be added. Oh, Daspletosaurus could be cool. Yeah, a very simple swampy exhibit for some Deinonychus. Let's have another biome and dinosaur suggestion, and we'll do an exhibit next door, so we can compare. Oh, Utahraptor. Yeah, we could definitely do with Utahraptor as well, couldn't we? Bit boring. Boring. That one's quite nice. Green and yellow. that one's also kind of okay, like a tan color with the red and yellow. Dimetrodon in a desert. Right, so let's give this one a mortar style viewing gallery. And we're going to do a slightly different setup here. So let's have that sort of sticking up. All this will become clear. So Dimetrodon is one of those animals that I probably wouldn't give a double-layered fence to, just because it's not really that dangerous. It's a relatively relaxed animal. So we're going to go out one and down. Going out one layer and then down. There we go. For some reason I pronounce Dimetrodon Dimetrodon. That's a very weird way of saying it, I will admit. Yes, I know about that barger. That's I have been keeping an eye on that for quite a while. So a desert enclosure, we don't need a particularly deep area of water or a particularly big area of water for that, because obviously it's a desert. So we are just going to give them a small little pond in one corner. Smooth out the edge. There we go. Obviously the sand works fine. Get rid of the excess grass. Good. And then we're going to add a couple of dunes. So turn the slope and intensity down, and the radius. We're just going to add a few dune-esque shapes. There you go. You can always smooth them down a little bit if you think they're too big or too high. That's fine. Texture in the water. I'm just going to add some more of that rock. Funny enough, I just searched on YouTube for JWE2 enclosure tips and watched your old vid and stumbled upon your live stream. Hello, Tarek. And yes, I have done a video on enclosure tips. So I would suggest, if people want even more help, to go and check that out. Rocks in a desert enclosure. Obviously go with the desert ones. I like putting rocks on top of the dunes. And then maybe one or two big ones around a water source. And obviously we need to think about plants. Again, for a desert, especially around water sources, palms are good. There's also of the desert plants, obviously, so the spiky aloe vera bushes, as well as the barrel cactus. Okay. And the conventional cactus, as it were. So in the middle, we're just going to put down... There's an area that looks a bit empty. Over here. Down a few. A few other plants. I did hear about the new mod, Tarek. I am a bit skeptical of it, though. There's a lot of people having problems with crashes and a lot of people having problems with frame rates with it. So I will not be using it. Right, we just want to add a light brushing grass and bushes, not too heavily, because obviously this is supposed to be a desert enclosure, but wherever you have plants, it makes sense you'd have other plants. And around the water source, you can be a bit more free with it. But there we go. Pretty easy. Now the outside, since this is we're using a mortar building here, I'm gonna make it look a bit more mortar-esque. So big bridge sections, or bridge sections? What am I on about? The wall sections. Yeah, we're going to put a couple of towers in next to gallery. A few broken bits of wall. Why did that one build there? What sort of plants? Too bushy. These birch trees from the Canada maps work quite well. Okay. Then another one about halfway. Good. I have a couple of tall palms growing inside towers. Like that. And let's just have a couple of fountains in between. And what dinosaur will we pick? Dimetrodon, wasn't it? Let's go grab some Dimetrodon. I personally haven't experienced it yet, so I guess I'm lucky there's a lot of new mods coming back. True, there are lots of new mods coming back. I think it might potentially be because of the news that nothing is coming for the 30th anniversary. Um, so people are just throwing out what they've made without worrying that a new DLC is going to drop and ruin it all. Again, we're going to pick 4, and we're going to put them in here. I suppose I better give them a feeder as well. This one we are going to put in the center because I don't mind occasionally a feeder being front and center. They announced a new Star Wars Kids series and it looked like crap. That doesn't surprise me. Wherever you have plants, you're going to have other plants. Exactly as Dark is. That's a very obvious thing to say, but... yes, sorry, I've got that wrong. Dimetrodon is, of course, synapsid, or what we used to call mammal-like reptiles back when I was a kid. I am honestly surprised that they are not doing anything for the 30th anniversary. I think that's a massive mistake. Like, why... It's like the biggest Jurassic Park event of the year, and they're doing nothing. I mean, what a time to decide not to try and get money out of people. Fletcher called a Brachiosaurus 70 Forsaken tons when it was 58 tons. Did I? I mean, weight references for any animal are always... for any dinosaur, should always be taken with a pinch of salt. Because Universal doesn't know what to do with the franchise anymore. I would argue that Universal didn't know what to do with the franchise when they made Jurassic World. But that's just my hatred of the new movies coming out. In fact, next week I have a video coming out, which might cause a bit of an argument between people. I'm curious to see what people are going to say about it. Yeah, some nice Dimetrodon color schemes there. Quite like that one. Fits the desert. One not so deserty, but still quite cool. Right, what should we do next? Let's make an aviary. So, I personally don't like the glass greenhouse domed aviaries because I think they don't really work. They work if you're going to make like biodomes, or if you're playing in Canada where like the temperature is always really low. But in tropical maps, a building like this would just cook everything inside because it's just covered in glass. So for most maps, I will tend to use the Jurassic Park Aviary Dome. It's just the best looking one, I think. And let's try and get it reasonably centered. There we go. I like barbed wire aviaries. Morris as Archaeopteryx. But it doesn't look a thing like Archaeopteryx. I to be blunt, I don't see the... They're very different looking. I don't think they look anything like each other. I've always thought about it too. If you use a glass aviary, those pterosaurs would be cooked chickens. Exactly. So, Jurassic Park Aviary Viewing Gallery. Again, I think it's one of the better viewing galleries. The Jurassic World Viewing Gallery, it looks very nice from this angle. You've got that lovely pterosaur-esque crests and stuff. But if you have a look at the actual aviary side of it, it's open at the sides and at the top. And it's not like slightly open. It's really, really massively open. Like any pterosaur would be able to get their head, if not fall inside of this design of gallery. It's really unsafe. And it's really surprising as well, because if you compare it to all of the other galleries we have, there's the mortar one, and there's the facility one. They're all completely enclosed. There's no... The mortar one has a little opening, but that's, it's not as bad as this one, which is... you might as well stick your head out of the top. If you go in that aviary gallery, you're basically like a lunchbox with the lid half off to every passing pterosaur. So for me, who builds parks thinking about realism, I wouldn't use it. Push the water. It's still not... Just realised why I hate this map. And of course you can't lower the terrain inside of the gallery. That's very annoying. So it'll have to stay like that. Oh, now you're fine. You're going to put it there. Bizarre. Right, what sort of environment shall we have inside this aviary, and what sort of pterosaur shall we have in here? I'm going to put in the hatchery for it. Just stick it there. Can you at least pretend Moros as Archaeopteryx? I think there are better things to pretend the Morus as. A baby T-Rex, or any baby big theropod. The Morus intrepidus works, I would argue, better than an Archaeopteryx. Yay, Helipterus. Yay, Helipterus. So, Yay, Helipterus is quite a small pterosaur. So we don't need to really give massive amounts of water to it. A little watering hole will do. going to line the back of this aviary. Okay. In some more of those darker rocks. That's another thing I think people don't do very much of, is using different rock colors together. Rock formations are not universally one color. They will always have different colors within them. So it makes sense to use different colors of rocks. Did you play Prehistoric Domain? I have not heard of Prehistoric Domain, no. I have heard of the Marapunisaurus. I believe it was there was a mod for Jurassic World Evolution 1 that added it. Yeah. Now, Yehalipterus needs the insect feeder. Now, because they're quite small pterosaurs, it makes sense you'd have the insect feeders quite close to the viewing gallery. You'd want people to be able to see it. I'm going to stick to the cycad brush because it doesn't really have too many tall trees in. Tall trees would really interfere with being able to see something as small as Yehalipterus. We obviously do want some trees in here because otherwise it'll look a bit bizarre. But what we want to do is stick to relatively small, short trees. So, something like that. Bushes. And maybe a couple of different colors. Okay. Yehalipterus. I'm really hoping they add more of the insect eating capability to more of the dinosaurs, so it would be nice if they added it to sort of the Struthiomimus and the Archaeornithomimus so they could eat from the insect feeders as well. Because scientifically that's accurate. I've never heard Yehalipterus pronounced like that. Well, it sounds really awkward to pronounce it J-Holopterus. Or G-Holopterus. I think Yehalopterus sounds better. They're quite small, so I think 6. Out you come, Yehalopterus. I think the Yehalopterus is also one of the few dinosaurs in game at the moment which has pretty much all really nice skins and patterns. And they did a really good job with the... oh, that's a nice one. They did a really good job with the patterns and the colours. It would be nice to have Tapejara as a fruit eater. I mean, these things are full of fruit, so all they need to do is like remove the grid on the top to make it a fruit feeder. Like Balor? 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 Yeah, something along those lines. But that's not how you say it. Well, yeah, so paleontologists will say, well, that's not how you pronounce the name. But I've heard different paleontologists pronounce dinosaurs completely different. You know, it's either Parasaurolophus or Parasaurolophus. And sometimes they can't even agree. But I think that's habitat works, and obviously we can delete the hatchery because we don't need it. And then we obviously have the entirety of the outside that we can design. So we're going to give it a bit of a themed area around the outside. There you go. Good. Right, so let's start with a bit of a border here. Thus. Then we're going to have a gap, and then we're going to have another set of borders. About use that big concrete pole there in the aviary, just to give us another position for some borders. Then we're going to do the same here. Next, we're going to put in some rocks. I'm going to use a desert-colored rocks because I think they're quite nice. Okay. Oh, I messed that up, didn't I? I have made an error. Oh well, we'll quickly just add another set of things in there. There you go. That's a bit more equal, isn't it? Can we not compare Fletcher to Evo? Yeah, don't compare me to Evo. Me and Evo have different styles, different ways of doing things. I think it's unhelpful to compare me to her. sticking to using the tropical trees, just because we are on a tropical map, so it does make a bit of sense. But we are going to put in some additional other types of tree here. Again, we're not going to put too tall trees, because the tall trees will block out the light going into the aviary. And we want to keep as much of the light as possible. So go. Gonna add in a couple of different colors. Gonna switch between the orange and the red trees, just some variety. A couple of smaller ones around there. Yeah. And I think finally an occasional bush. There we go. I think that works quite well. I really want to see Shatungosaurus. I think Shatungosaurus would be a good animal for them to add, although I do think the game has too many hadrosaurid slash hadrosaurid-like animals. To me, I consider things like Metabarosaurus and Iguanodon as hadrosaurid-like, because they are basically, they're just iguanodontid, they're not hadrosaurids, but they kind of have a similar body shape and they walk around in a similar way, and most of them don't really have anything interesting about them, which is what I would argue a lot of hadrosaurids are like. So I kind of lump them in together into the same sort of grouping. What's the time? 22:16. Let's do a aquatic exhibit, actually, because we haven't done one of those yet. Now, the aquatic lagoon sections are considerably bigger than the aviary sections, so you can't really put them in a small circle. So we'll put one into here. It's not quite big enough for us to have two, so we'll just put in... How many could we fit in here? Yeah. We'll turn this into a Roman racetrack. What do I mean by that? So, Roman chariot racing racetracks were basically ovals. They had a central line, usually down the middle, or a wall, and then you'd have grandstands usually all around it, or at either end. And that's what we're going to do here. So, I happen to think that the Jurassic Park era is best for this sort of thing. I think grandstands... We'll do grandstands along the edge. There you go, and repeat the same on the other side. since this is a Roman racetrack, we'll give it some the orange path that I have modded it. We won't go all the way up to the other side of the path. We have Bunt plan. Oh, hello, Dino Army. Welcome to the stream. Oh, wait, history lesson. Well, I am a history teacher, so I do occasionally slip into my career, as it were. I wish you could have them right next to each other and not have that spacing. Yeah, the spacing can be a little bit annoying on these. And even with mods, it's not easy to put another one in the middle because of the windows. I suppose what you could do is you could try to put like a conventional gallery between, but then it doesn't really work. So you can bodge it or just not bother. We're going to make use of the lagoon decorations to sort that out. Did I just put that in the wrong place? Okay. So, the rest of the Roman racetrack design, we want to create the appearance of an enclosed space. And the best way of doing this is with the tallest decorations. Since we're going with a Roman feel, the Jurassic Park decorations I think are the best for that. Flaming pillars. And we will also add flags down the middle. Down the middle is not particularly easy to accomplish because obviously you don't know where the middle is. That look like under the waterline. Tad inconvenient actually, that doesn't work. So we'll do it this way around instead. It would be nice for them to add some new lagoon decorations, a few that are maybe facility aimed or Malta aimed would be nice. About there. We'll do the same about that. So this gives us our Roman racetrack center line. What happened there? Oh, we accidentally missed one. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. That is correct. So it should be. Oh. Getting confused. Which I admit is not always difficult to do. Yeah, something like that. That's, you know, you get the gist. For added Roman feel, we definitely want to use some of the monorail pieces. Monorail is considered guest structure. Let's do... Let's try and get this. I don't know how Evo makes her monorail stuff look so good. But I'm useless. From there, too close. Let's go from there to there. Same here, so we go from there. Connect them. I think that looks suitably Roman, doesn't it? Fletcher's better if you never compare the thing you did to what Eva did. Thank you, Jacob. Even put one down the center line. Although that being said, it wouldn't create anything. So, yeah, there's our Roman-esque sort of racetrack, really. Obviously, we need to put something in for feeders. So what I'm going to do is get rid of 2 of the flag posts at the ends. Put in the fish feeders. 1 and 2. And then we will replace the decorations that we missed. We'll put in some flaming obelisks. Here's Albuquerque. I usually think of Looney Tunes, if I'm honest. Because they were forever making references to Albuquerque. We should have taken a right turn at Elm. I think that is the case, Dino Army. I've noticed that as well. Flags. And then we're just going to put in some forest at the ends. I wish the forestry brush was a bit fairer when it came to putting trees and stuff in. I mean, come on. You put in plenty of gingos. So frustrating when it does that. Obviously, you can go really all out with something like this and give yourself lots of cool design and decorations. I'm just giving you some, you know, a basic sort of design that you could replicate or try to replicate if you don't have all the mods. But basically, I try and do this with all of my lagoons. Try to sort of surround them and make them look like stadiums or that sort of thing. We could do with a lagoon species. So let's do let's do the ENCLOSURES. We'll take all 5. I mean, some people out there own their own rocket launchers. That's just for safety, though, really. I mean, wonder if we can put trees into... Yeah. again. Putting some trees of different colours in. Just to help break up the monotonous green. I think that looks quite good. Oh, bugger, that's clearly Godzilla. Let me try and think of a movie and try to give it an obscure explanation. Bad live action remake. What, Godzilla vs. Kong? I thought Godzilla vs. Kong was considered good. Or is it only considered good by people who don't know much about Godzilla movies? Should give them a bit of a... So yeah, Roman racetrack design. It's 20 to 11 here. We've done quite a few enclosures. Let's do one more enclosure, but we'll go for a slightly bigger one this time, so we can have a slightly different dinosaur in. So give me a biome and a dinosaur. No carnivores this time. Give me a herbivore this time. Edmontosaurus with some Taiga. Dino Army, you know what I have to say about compies. What I have to say about compies is exactly the same as what Robert Muldoon thinks of all of the dinosaurs. They should all be destroyed. So Edmontosaurus, not a particularly dangerous animal. Again, I think a single layer fence is acceptable. But what we are going to do with this is Taiga inspired. So let's put in I'm gonna put in a couple of like raised. Oof. A couple of raised mountainous areas. We are going to surround them with invisible fencing. The Edmontos do not climb up them. that. And then we are going to grab the viewing log. Put it in the middle. Let's try that again. I hate it when it does that. The auto leveling on terrain is so sharp in this game. Right. Let's try that again. We want it kind of like there. We use Kyodenics mod to move it. Like thusly. And then we're going to bed it into the environment. So we're going to use, again, some rocks. These some fairly big ones. That. Cool. I think if I had a little bit more... Ooh, shoot. Had a little bit more space either side. Might be able to put water under this. Really? You can't put water under it? Is that true? Okay, we'll do it this way. I've never met a game that has terrain tools that are as awkward to use as this game's. They are just utterly useless at times. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Come on, McFly. Come on, McFly. Back to the Future. Oh, I've seen that movie so many times. Well, all of them so many times. My mum always puts them on. Now, Taiga environment, we don't really have a good brush for the terrain. So I'm going to mix the mud and the dry rock brush in order to create something that looks a bit... I think that kind of works. I'm going to put a few ginkgos in to start with. Ginkgos will just give us some very green bushy trees, and then the rest of the trees will add manually. So Taiga. Have another patch of Taiga trees here. Another patch here. And obviously some over here. Few around the water source. That. Why do you call it Philosopher's Stone instead of Sorceress? I'm not really sure why that is the case. I do agree that Sorcerer's Stone kind of makes more sense in regards to the story, but we just called it Philosophers for some reason. Even though he wasn't a philosopher. What's the invisible fencing for? So we want the Edmontosaurus not to be climbing up the central mountains. We want this, the central mountains and this log. This is our landscaping for the enclosure. We don't want dinosaurs running all around it, basically. And that is another tip that I would suggest people do as well. If you are having big bits of landscape in your parks, like mountains and such, put invisible fencing around them so the dinosaurs don't climb up them. Because it does look a bit bizarre when you see a dinosaur climbing a massive mountain. The Telltale roller coaster would be interesting to see. I think we definitely need more attractions in this game in general. You just don't have enough. Right, while they're airlifting them in, I need to add some more rocks. I've realised this water is a little bare. I'm pretty happy with that. Because any engineer wanted to shoot themselves looking at that roller coaster dino army. Ouch, nerd guy. Ouch. I want to make this river stand out a little bit more. Let's add some sand under it. There we go. So there's our attempt at a little Taiga environment for our Admontos. Now obviously they won't walk underneath the log viewing gallery. Because it's hard-coded in that only small animals can walk under the viewing log. Even if you bury the terrain so there's so much space that you could get a Brachiosaurus under it, they won't go. But there's no reason why you can't use it in this fashion and have it in the middle of an enclosure and just not have dinosaurs go under it. It works just as well. Quite a mix of colours here. Fletcher, do you believe in Bigfoot? I believe that there's probably animals that humans haven't seen yet. That's as far as I'll go. Yeah, I think we've done some nice design work over here. So just to go over a few of the tips I've suggested. Number 1, use double layer fencing for your carnivores. Number 2, always try and mix and match some other colours of foliage in amongst the greenery. Especially if you're doing things like swamps and forests, especially temperate forests. If you're doing things like deserts, try and add some little dunes into the enclosure, just to give you a little bit of terrain difference. If you're making lagoons, think about the outside of the lagoon just as much as the inside, because the inside, doing obviously the under the water decoration is important, but doing the outside of the lagoon is just as important for making it look really good for your parks. Consider the environment you are in when you're building aviaries. Don't put glass greenhouse pressure cookers in deserts, for example. But obviously, likewise, don't put very open cage-like designs in freezing cold conditions either. Because these are reptiles. You want them to be in a good environment. I don't think we quite have time to do Suchomimus, Natalie, but next time we are here, if I am going to come back to this, we'll do, I'll just write it in here. Put a Sucho in there for you. Any other... oh, yeah, and obviously don't ignore the placing of a back scene area in your park either. Don't just make it all enclosures and guest plazas and stuff. Think about a back scene area. Or even start with it. I mean, because we all need places to build dinosaurs from and such. And we, like I say, we will come back to this sort of experimental area just to do some more sort of inspiration stuff, because we didn't get round to this over here, which I was going to get started on, but I'll explain that the next time we're here. Now, just before I go, I want to explain, so from tomorrow onwards, I'm on holiday. All of me and Dane are away on holiday, and we're going to be away from, doing streams and making videos. However, I have spent all week making videos to cover you. So next week, there's a video on Wednesday coming out, which is quite a controversial one. I'll be interested to see what people respond with. And on Sunday of next week, there won't be a stream, but I have made a compilation of some of the best and funniest bits from all of the streams me and Dane have done so far this year. So do give that a watch. It's about 50 minutes long or so. So you can always just put it on in the background while you're doing other stuff. But there's some funny bits in those highlights from all of the streams I've done. And then the week after that, on the Wednesday, there is another video, a tour of one of my parks that I've completed, which I've just uploaded for everyone as well. So that will be on the following Wednesday. And then after that, I will be back on the Sunday to do a stream. So there'll be, next stream will be the 21st of May. 14th of May, you've got a best of stream highlights. Wednesday the 10th of May, you've got a video from me that's a bit controversial. And the 17th of May, you've got a park tour video that I've done for you. So hopefully that should tide you over with content until I'm back doing streams. I want to thank everyone for tuning in with me today. Nerd Guy Productions has been here while he's been at work. Bug has been here all stream. Natalie, Jacob, Dino Army as well. As Dark Kid was here at the start. Am I missing? Oh, Tarek was here as well. I don't think I'm missing anybody else. No, I think that is everyone. Anyway, do like the stream. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And I will see all of you on the 21st of May. Until then, enjoy your days, stay safe, and goodbye.